Welcome to Radically Conservative, a show where we'll talk about freedom, faith, and national patriotism. I'm Stephanie Liggio, I'm your host, joined by Jimmy Livrieri, our producer, and Pat McManus, our contributor. We're going to do a round-robin table of questions tonight. So we're going to start with Charlie Kirk, a national treasure, was taken from us suddenly about 12 days ago. Pat, what will you remember most for Charlie Kirk?
First of all, it was a devastating loss for the country. Charlie Kirk was a visionary as a young man. He saw what was going on in this country. Our youth were being sold a bill of goods that it basically was not a good thing to have national pride and to live a conservative lifestyle. And he worked tirelessly to educate the youth and bring that to the college campuses around the country. And I think it's something that the country desperately needed at this time. And this was truly tragic for the whole country.
I agree. Jimmy, how do you feel?
It feels like I lost a family member. I'm heartbroken. A great man lost.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people across the country agree with you. They feel as if they've lost a family member. Well, we certainly will keep the Kirk family in our prayers as we move forward. And our prayers is something that we talk about in the Conservative Party and in the conservative movement. How do you feel that something like this is going to reflect in the mayoral race coming up, Jimmy, with prayer being so important for more and more people attending church again and now having this diverse selection of mayoral candidates?
In New York City, it's very difficult. You know, a lot of people in New York don't really look at Charlie Kirk as a person that they like.
But do you feel like we have a responsibility now to bring forth more of what he talked about and how he approached a subject?
I do that every day.
Mm-hmm.
I always talk about conservative issues with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I do every day.
Mm-hmm.
Some people just don't want to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
I ask questions, and people just want to turn the switch off and ignore you.
Do you think they're overloaded from talking about politics in general?
I think they're just stupid. They don't care.
Very interesting.
Pat, how do you feel it'll affect the mayoral race?
It's an interesting dynamic given the front runner for New York City mayor being a Muslim and then having this devout Christian assassination. It's very interesting dichotomy going on here. You know, it's a great thing, and a lot of people are going back to faith, and religion is going to be a very big issue because a lot of people in New York City, I don't believe what they perceive as some of the ideals of the Muslim religion, and you know how this is all going to play out and the effects that Charlie Kirk's assassination are going to have on this election are yet to be seen. But I definitely feel that there will be some impact.
And too, you bring up that Mr. Mamdani is of Muslim faith, but a lot of what the Muslim faith portrays, it's a lot of conservative values. They do believe in family first. They do believe in a lot of family tradition, and they don't believe in prostitution as one thing, and they don't also believe in gay rights, which is big in New York City. So how do you think something like that will, in the coming weeks, as more and more people get to see what his platform truly represents, do you think that'll come forward?
Well, yes, that's, you know, you bring up a very interesting point. A lot of Mamdani, while he professes his Muslim faith, many of his proposals are in direct contradiction. And I do, in my activism in the Bronx, I do encounter a lot of Muslim people, and I do have interactions with the community, and they are very, very conservative people. And it is kind of dismaying, as you brought up, him proposing legalized prostitution. This is in total contradiction to what his professed faith is. So there's a lot of contradictions that I see coming out in the coming weeks into him as a person and who he claims to be and what his political platform may be.
Mm-hmm. Jimmy, do you have anything to add to that?
Not at this moment.
Okay, very good. For the next round, we're going to talk about our city council. Lots more attention is being paid to local elections, hyper-focused, and we have our city council races alongside of our mayoral race and other positions this year. What do you see, Pat, going on in the city council race, and what the city council, these 11th hour rule changes, do you think that'll help us gain any ground on changing the face of the city council makeup?
I do. This is, some of these rules are I see as a blatant attempt of the Democratic leadership right now, Adrian Adams, trying to secure their power within the city council and taking the voice away from the minority council members. As we've discussed, one of the rule changes as it stands now, to bring an issue to the floor, it takes 7 council members. Presently, we have 6 Republicans, with a big hope of bringing in a 7th conservative Republican in the next session. So now one of the proposed rule changes is change that number of 7 to 11, and it just seems like another way where our Democratic leadership here in the city and in the state, for that matter, are attempting to take the voice of the people away. They want to represent. They don't want to represent all people. They only want to represent their people, and I feel that they're trying to solidify that going forward.
Do you agree with that, Jimmy?
Absolutely. They want to take care of their own people, just that they want, because that's their voter, that's their constituency.
But their people being their party line. You have to toe the
Correct.
party line.
Yes.
And then how do you see the conservative Republicans and non-party line registered voters, where do they have a voice?
Well, they're getting more and more disgusted what's going on, and I see so many more people coming over to conservative and Republican ideas more than ever before.
Do you see them getting more involved locally?
Some people I do see, and some people don't. I see they don't care.
What do you think it takes for people to really take action?
A good hit in the head when something's taken away from them somehow. That's going to motivate things.
Okay, so no cookies tonight, right?
No cookies tonight.
Okay.
People will come out and vote.
Okay, very good. We also have other races this year on our ballot. Pat, do you want to talk about that?
Which races specifically?
We have New York City Comptroller.
Oh, yes, the top of the ticket. Comptroller. Those are normally not, especially controller race. I've spoken to several candidates throughout the years that ran for controller, and it's never a sexy race, has been termed. It's never, but it is actually one of the most important positions in New York City, aside from being a check on the mayor. They are supposed to be the auditors for every agency. So whereas we talk about, and I think everybody's aware of all the waste in government and all, it is the job of the controller is supposed to oversee that and can actually even override the mayor on subjects of the finances of New York City. Unfortunately, we haven't had one. We haven't had a controller that did anything other than use it as a platform to run for mayor. I'm hoping this year we can elect common sense controller in Peter Kafalos.
That would be wonderful. Peter's a great guy.
Yes.
Jimmy, what agencies would you like to see audited first when our friend Peter Kafalos becomes the comptroller?
Every single agency cut.
Cut.
Not eliminated, a good haircut across the board.
So similar to what we see at the federal level?
Yes, absolutely.
So what, a 40% cut, 30%? Where's your line?
I'll get shot if I would like to see 20%, but the reality, 20% is not going to work. But I'll be happy with 10% cuts.
To start.
Absolutely.
To start at 10%?
This is something that Jimmy and I have many conversations about, and we disagree Quite a bit. Jimmy thinks across the board cut is the answer. I say over the years, different agencies have been overfunded to different extents. So cutting the police department by 10% is not equivalent to cutting the Board of Education by 10%. Because again, over the years, in my opinion, the administration of the Board of Education has ballooned and the costs are ridiculous. Whereas there may not have been that explosion of administration in the fire department or the police department. So it's important to look at each agency. There is no blanket answer, which is what everybody is looking for. Every department needs to be looked at. Maybe you could take 20% from police, but you may have to take 40% from the Board of Education, because historically they seem to have been more overfunded. And again, the dollars do not make it to the classroom. The argument that everybody makes on the left is that there's teachers don't have the money in the classroom. Well, let's look at administration. The number of principals, assistant principals has just ballooned, and we need to look into that. And it's that way in many agencies. So that's, Jimmy and I completely disagree.
That's why if we had a 10% of cut across the
Okay,
whole
gentlemen,
entire
we're going to
board.
go to break, and when we come back, we'll pick it up there. Okay, so we're back with Radically Conservative. Jimmy, before our break, we were talking about straight cuts across the board, and you want to cut right across the board. And Pat rose a great issue about not cutting the police department or fire department by 20%, that you might want to cut sanitation and other agencies. Which agencies truly do you want to see cut?
The problem is you don't want to cut your friends, and that's the problem. Pat doesn't want to cut his friends. He wants to cut everybody else. So my answer is, hey, you're getting a haircut. Everybody's getting a haircut evenly.
So can we think about this in terms of service for residents instead of your friends? Because we need a police department to properly take care of what's going on in the streets of New York.
They could give a 10% cut. A 10% a cut across the board. They'll have a little bit less. The fire department, the teachers, everybody will be even cut.
So, your point about
once you
friends,
start picking and choosing,
no.
then where's that enter?
No. Your point about the friends makes my point. Historically, some departments have been ignored because they were not the friends of the mayor and the city council. Whereas we know the teachers' unions have always had a special relationship with the administration of New York City. And therefore, for the last 40 years, they've been getting little extra little snacks in their budget, whereas other departments were told, no, you're not getting more. As a matter of fact, you got to cut. So now, as I've said to you numerous times, the sewer department may be overfunded by 40%, while the police department or the fire department is only overfunded by 5%. So now, when you make a 10% cut to both, you actually haven't cut the sewer department at all, but you have cut the police and fire budgets by 5%. So this
maybe we send out an investigation team to see where the cuts are independently.
well, that's what I believe
Maybe,
needs to be done.
So a proper audit is what you're conferring to?
Yeah, like Dodge or something, right? What Trump was doing with
Doge, right.
Doge, yeah.
Department of Government Efficiency.
Yeah.
There hasn't
Bring it to New
been
York.
an actual audit of the New York City budget and departments. I forget especially the Board of Ed. As you can tell, I have a little issue with the Board of Ed, and it's not with the teachers, and it is absolutely with the way the education system is run.
But you have to also look at the laws that have been passed at the State House that
Absolutely.
have increased and now regionalized education, then now you're going to have a second superintendent in every region and not just in our precinct education. And quite honestly, I think PTAs have been run out. We see it across the country.
Yes.
Don't know what the participation is here locally for a PTA meeting. I don't ever see notices. It's as hard as finding your community board meetings.
It's generally discouraged, and to Jimmy's credit, he was a member of his kids' PTA.
I was co-president of the PTA. in school.
Congratulations, that's great.
Yes, so I'm very familiar how the school system on the PTA level.
Did you
is
feel
run.
welcomed? Did the administration in the schools make
Yeah,
you
we
feel
all got along.
welcome?
Yeah, we all got
and
along.
part-
The school
so
system,
you
the
felt-
principal was, we all were a big time,
Okay, and
big family.
when was this? When was this?
2009 to 2010.
So we're talking over
15 years ago.
decade
Okay.
ago. a
And the
decade
school
and a
I
half
was
ago.
part of was a very, very close-knit school.
Okay.
I grew up with some of the staff in the school, so it was a lot of other parents I know for a very long time.
So it was more community based.
Absolutely, and I would love
Right.
to see. The public education cut tremendously, and I would be okay with eliminating it altogether. And if you can't afford to bring your kid to school for 5 days, maybe you can only afford to have your kid go to school for 2 days a week.
No.
Well, I think that there are other options out there. Charter schools are doing really well, and I think that if I like these plans where we attach the money to the child and let the parents decide where they go to school within their community, because even if it's homeschooling or a school pod situation that a lot of places are doing now, but there's tons of education wings that we can go off to. I want to sort of take this back because the election is such a hot topic.
Yes.
How do you see the DA races, and how do you explain, Pat, to someone getting familiar with, I don't know who's on my ballot, I'm looking at this, I don't know what this position means, I didn't know I get a separate DA in the Bronx. They never
Right.
talk about the DA. And what are they doing now anyway with cashless bail? What cases are they trying?
Oh, absolutely. And it goes back to education, which is why our kids aren't taught civics. Our children are not taught in public schools how the government operates anymore. And that's why they don't know that we have DAs. Now we have 20 and 30-year-olds, 25, 30-year-olds that have no idea how the government even operates. It's always been something that somebody else, oh yeah, the government's going to take care of me, but they have no idea. And this is something that I think has been, I guess, a plan. I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but it preserves the power for those in power when the public is not educated as to how, what their responsibilities are as far as elected leaders and so on. So,
Do you agree with that, Jimmy?
The average person doesn't even vote.
And you think that's more
I
of an
think it's
issue?
horrible.
Well, what the last mayoral race, we had, 23% turnout?
yes.
Horrible.
And that's
But the-
of registered voters, and that's not
Right.
even taking into account the number of people here who are not registered
Out
to
of
vote.
approximately 8 million, there was approximately 1 million votes cast. And 7 in 10 did not vote.
Right.
And sadly, I say the working class should be the ones voting because they're getting clobbered with taxes.
And do you think the immigrant communities, Jimmy, do you think they are properly educated once they become citizens here? Are they properly educated on how they have a choice? They don't have to just vote for one party?
Well, they're taught to vote for one party because that's their friends, they feel.
Can you
You could say
expand
it.
on
You
that?
could say.
Say it. Expand
Who were
on
they
it.
taught to vote for?
They're taught to Democrats. Democrats pretend they're your friends. And it's easy. If I give you money, you're going to vote for me, right?
Wow.
If I can take your money and give it to you, you're going to vote for me. I'm going to steal your money, and give it to you. You're going to vote for me, right?
I'll always vote for you, Jimmy. I know you have
Thank
heart.
you.
I want to give you each an opportunity to bring up a question of your own. So
Wow.
I know, Jimmy, you love to talk about our First Amendment rights and
Oh.
our Second Amendment rights, but looking more locally to New York, an issue that you think that the mayoral candidates should have to focus on during the debates. What issue do you think they should talk about?
Saving government money. Save the taxpayers some money.
So, yeah, so government money or tax. I'm a big fan of saying this is taxpayer funded, not government funded,
Yes.
because it is coming from our
That's right.
paychecks that goes into the government
The
coffers.
government
Correct,
does absolutely nothing
government
to
does-
produce income other
They
than
are not a
tax
business other
those
than
that
taxing
work.
us. Correct.
That's why it should be cut. Cut
That's-
spending.
okay.
Cut.
Okay. And then do you think that crime should be top of everyone's minds also?
Now, the question is freedom or safety.
Oh, okay.
know,
And this is one
okay.
of your favorite conversations.
This is
Freedom or
really good,
safety?
you know. Bail, the reason we have bail is only to show up to court. It's not to put people in prison. It's only to show up to court.
Okay. So if someone needs to be able to pay bail to not sit in jail so that they will come back.
Well, if you can't afford bail, you know, I know people that were on Rikers Island, $10 bail, and they couldn't. You can't bail yourself out. Somebody else has to bail you out.
Well,
There's a priest that comes around into the jails. Thank God they'll put $10 up to help you get out of jail. But imagine being stuck in jail for 2 weeks.
I absolutely wholeheartedly agree with Jimmy. There were cases, the one that brought this to light, Khalid Browder. They were travesties, and those things should never have happened. But that doesn't mean that there should be no bail for anybody. We try in society now to paint everything either black or white. It's got to be all or nothing, left or right, however you want to put it. But we live 99.9% of our lives in a gray area. Okay, and this is something that bail reform did not at all take into account. It was okay because this guy sat in jail, you know, unfortunate as it is, Khalid Browder on a very small bail. It wasn't $10, $50 or whatever it was. He ended up committing suicide. Because of that tragedy doesn't mean the person who unprovoked stabbed somebody on the train also should not be held in prison. It's this all or nothing mentality has to go. We need to bring common sense back into our laws and our society.
Maybe a little more ankle bracelets where the government can monitor.
You're
little
okay
more,
with the government monitoring
Listen,
someone?
It's better to have a government monitor than put them on Rikers Island.
Oh, okay. I can see
Well,
that point. Do you think
yeah.
there's a validity in that?
There's absolute validity, but we do have those programs already. The problem is they're not overseen. And people that are supposed to be home with an ankle bracelet on are out in the streets committing crimes.
Well, then they're caught. Then they get
So-
caught, and they go, "Hey, look, we gave you a chance. You're a knucklehead. You're gonna go to Rikers
But
Island."
again, this is not, the law did not account for that. Bail reform did not account for that. And that's why we have people with over 100 arrests still out in the street. And in general, they have 100 before they stabbed and killed this person, they were arrested 165 times for shoplifting. Well, then why, even though it was only a shoplifting, there was a clear indication that this person was a problem and should not be
Was he
allowed back
going
out
to
in
court?
society. Obviously, if you had 165 arrests, you did not show up for court dates.
Well, he might go
Okay.
to court and kept pleading guilty for little
And
things.
even if you don't show up at court,
spend 2 days in jail.
Okay.
Hey, Your Honor, I'm sorry.
but
okay,
you
time
don't show up
served.
at court and another warrant is issued and you get picked up on that warrant, that's not bailable. So you get picked up on the warrant, they take you in, they process you, and they give you another date for you not to come back.
I don't believe that.
Jimmy, it's
That's
in
what's
the
happening now.
newspapers.
Then you're saying
100%
so
clear.
you're saying Rikers Island is empty?
It essentially is. The numbers, I gave
see-
you the numbers
I see
recently.
the buses driving back and
I
forth.
gave you the
those school
numbers
buses.
recently. The
Rikers
latest
Island
population
buses.
numbers are down 60-70% of a few years ago.
Right. Well, I believe a lot of people were let out during COVID because they were afraid that the prisoners might get sick.
Well,
Well,
part
you're
of
talking about a little separate different.
Part-
That's convicted felon, convicted people convicted.
no, convicted generally are not housed unless you're convicted of a misdemeanor. You're not housed in Rikers. Once
Oh, you can be
once you're
going
convicted
upstate.
of a felony, you get
Then you
transferred
don't
upstate.
get
You
away
go from
with
jail to prison. Rikers Island is a jail, not a prison. And but part of this local jail program that we've already started building these jails, it called for the prison population to be reduced by 65% in New York City. And how do you do that other than allowing criminals back out into the street? How
Well, they're not convicted, so if someone's arrested, they're still innocent until convicted.
absolutely.
We have
But
to remember that.
what part of the speedy trial are we not getting?
Well, that again plays into bail reform in the discovery portion. The demands placed on the district attorneys are almost impossible to meet to give a person charged with a crime a speedy trial. So,
Well, they both want the defense usually tries to extend it off. The longer a trial goes, the longer a case goes on, the weaker and weaker and weaker it gets. Especially if you're on Rikers Island stuck.
the rules now are, in some cases, 72 hours for the prosecution to give the defense the information. Otherwise, the charge gets thrown out.
On discovery,
Okay.
you're saying.
On discovery.
That's right.
Okay.
And that's before an indictment or after an indictment?
I believe it's pre-indictment. There's 72 hours. There are so many egregious things. Do you know if you kill somebody on a street corner and it's on film?
I think, Pat, we're going to
Yes,
have to
we're
hold
gonna have
that
to
until
cut
our
off.
next episode. I would love to hear some feedback from our audience. You can email 104girl@proton.me, 104girl@proton.me. Would love to hear your feedback. Any ideas for topics or anything that you want to talk about what we discussed here today would be appreciated. Jimmy, Pat, thank you so much for this pilot episode, and
Thank
we
you.
hope to have you back.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for having us. Thank you.